Based, once again, on the title of this video, it should be quite easy to understand what the topic of today is. Ooh, I'm so important, I have a topic of the day. No. Again, if anyone's coming to watch this video and expecting me to be very in-depth and have done a bunch of research and a bunch of background stuff, I haven't. I know what I know. I'm a fan of Star Wars Legends universe, and I'm just going to put my own opinion. I'm going to emphasize again my opinion out there, because I'm going to state once again that the Star Wars community seems to have an aversion to opinion that's not of their own. And I understand lots of people don't have that standing, but good Lord Almighty, you say something one person doesn't like, and suddenly you're the worst freaking person to have ever graced the Star Wars universe's fandom. But I digress. But like I said, it's all opinion. It's all what I personally know. I haven't gone to this source and that source and looked up what the foundations for the whole thing were. So, this is all just purely my opinion, my stance, my knowledge put out there. So if you're here for something that's a little more, way more thought put into it, then I recommend you don't listen to my little personal tirade on my own opinions. So that's a warning to you people who've come here, stumbled across it, and you don't want to hear any more. If you do, well, feel free to stay. And tell me what you think. At the end, I always tell people, tell me what your opinion on whatever it is I'm talking about. I do not have an aversion to people's opinions. I've had plenty of people tell me their opinions, and I've either agreed or disagreed with them in the comment section. Some people, I think, aggressively tell me their opinions, and I've received comments in the comment section that I think are from people who downvote my videos and are leaving something that's supposed to get on my nerves and be like, you're stupid, here's why you're stupid, but I've seen their points, and I don't try to start, an argument. I try to tell you why I don't believe what you say is true, or if you make a good point, I say you make a good point, so, feel free to be an asshole if you want, but, you're not going to get a rise out of me. I have a lot more things to do with my life than get pissed at people in the comment section, but still, I have to see this shit all the time, so I'm putting it out there. If you're going to give me crap over something, just know it's not going to affect me. It's your own opinion. This is my own opinion. Say it if you want, but don't expect me to respond. There are plenty of people who watch my videos who like to respond, not for me, but because I think what sometimes people who say things rude kind of don't get is that other people might agree with me, and therefore they will not agree with you. I'm not saying that because I'm so great and have so many followers. I'm just saying you invite yourself to get into an argument with people on a YouTube comment section, well, then you know what you're in for. But anyway, 3 minutes in, topic of the video, the recording, I should say, because there's hardly a freaking video. The topic is of the Old Jedi Order, although I just prefer to call it Jedi Order because, calling it old just is like, it's really unnecessary considering most of the things that are done with the Jedi Order are done in the Old Jedi Order era, so, it has come to my attention that within the Star Wars community, and I have talked about this before on the old Timpire channel with some of the Timpire people, if they can even be called that anymore, about the Jedi Order and why people have problems with it, why people see them as hypocritical even from outside of the fictional universe, because in the universe we all know the Jedi get a bunch of shit from people who really don't even begin to comprehend the intricacies of what it is to be a Jedi and how to and how to live as one. But, it's come to my attention that people from outside the universe, and I mean us fans, people who read books, comic books, or play video games and watch the movies, were always so damn judgmental about the old Jedi Order, and it makes me question where it comes from. I mean, okay. The first argument I see against the Jedi Order is that they're horrible, 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 horrible people. Horrible people. Because they don't allow people to get into relationships, the romantic ones. Now, before I go on, I should preface that I have personal life reasons for why I do not get into relationships myself. I think I have said it once before somewhere else, but I don't know if I've ever just kind of just stated it on my own. But I do consider myself to. I hate the term because it really does not match what I am. But the term out there is I believe it's asexual. You know, where you don't feel the need or the desire to get into any sort of romantic relationship or sexual one with anyone of either gender. But no, that does not mean I'm gay, in case someone's thinking that. I have told this to everyone on the Timpire. They all know where I stand. I can take the jokes if you want to throw them at me. But before anyone gets on my case, if I had to say which gender was more attractive, it would be female. But this is hardly the point. But I'm putting this out there because it is a little on my part bias of me to say that I don't understand where all the vitriol against the Jedi comes from in this regard, because we all know the Jedi are based off of Eastern Asian kind of traditions, monks, you could even say a little European monk influence, where they're not supposed to be in a relationship and it's supposed to be all about self-control and focusing your energies elsewhere and shit like that. But when it comes to our day and age with people and our culture, which is so hyper-sexualized that it drives me up the freaking walls, it makes me think that there's just something programmed in our brains, and maybe not mine, but I mean my friends, everyone I know about this, where it's like, oh, well, if you just let the Jedis bang, they'd be all right. Okay, let's look at a couple of instances in the past where such things have not turned out well. Well, Jolie Bindo and his wife didn't turn out all that great. Ulick Keldroma and Nomi Sunrider / Alima Keto, that didn't turn out so great. Let's see, any others? Malik got a little creepy and almost rapey before he went dark side with Jarael, I think you say her name. How you say her name? That's great. SWTOR likes to shove down your throat all these contrived stories of Jedi going behind the council's back and getting into relationships, and either A, they don't work, or B, you're supposed to make a choice of whether or not to defend them or not to defend them or to break the code yourself, which I, as a SWTOR gamer, never do. And all my Jedi characters never get into a relationship because, frankly, I don't see the reason. I don't see why that is so goddamn important. Excuse my language. But, if we're going to go based off of the stories that we know that are really relevant, okay, before I even go there, Anakin Skywalker, some people would say that didn't turn out very well. If you want to get an idea of just the Jedi mindset of why relationships are not a good thing, all you have to do is look at Anakin and Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is the perfect fucking Jedi of the Old Order. He doesn't get into any relationships. I don't give a shit what Clone Wars tries to infer. No. He doesn't get in any relationships. Maybe, okay, Kenobi, the book implies that he has a chance to, but he's no, you're not, this is not really what you want to the woman in question. This is not really what I can do right now. He's still kind of sticking to his code, but I don't doubt that at some point in his life he was like, it'd be quite easy for me to just do this since there's no order, but he doesn't do it. And that's the thing about Obi-Wan, is that Obi-Wan understands what it is to channel his energies elsewhere, his time, his motivation, his devotion, his allegiance to the code, essentially. And I mean, even the code doesn't itself imply that you have to be that way. It's more of a council thing, but still, it's kind of inferred in the code. Don't ask me to recite it because I know the Sith by heart, but the Jedi always flounder on the third or second line. And then look at Anakin. Now, excuse me, I've always said that I like the idea of Anakin and Padme, the whole relationship. Again, I will always admit that it wasn't executed that well, but I still stand by it, that it was very interesting relationship that I actually gave a shit about. Unlike Han Solo and Leia, which I was like, okay, this is secondary, I don't care. This more felt pertinent to the actual fucking story. That was more like, hey, this happened. Good for you! Luke Skywalker is kind of the main character of the story. I don't care! Going on from there. And now I understand people's arguments against Anakin where it's like, oh, Jesus, he's a possessive dickhead and he's not really in love with her. I think people don't seem to understand, like, I'm as I am, but I still understand that young people, when you say you're in love, is usually going to end, like, it's either going to end badly or it's going to be very emotional. And one thing I always have to remind people is that Star Wars is specified as a space opera. So sometimes when you hear people in Star Wars just blatantly saying how they feel or what they feel, it's because it's a space opera. Has opera ever been subtle in expression of emotions? I mean, really? No, not that much. But you know, I don't buy into some people's arguments that Anakin is nothing but a possessive, sex-crazed, demonic person. I think there was motion there. I don't understand necessarily the emotion myself, so, you know, this is coming kind of from a person from the outside looking in and who appreciates things more than I actually understand. Again, going back to my own personal lifestyle, I don't understand people who say they are in love with another person. I don't understand what that is, because to me, it's all just chemical attraction in the brain. But when it comes to fictional universes, I can understand the logic behind where they're saying these emotions, these unseen things that come to you and make you feel more than the only thing I can equate it to is how I feel for my family, my blood family. So I have to imagine that something a little like that, just a little more icky. So I do think I understand what's going on there between Anakin and Padme, you know. And, you know, this is another thing where it's like, people have asked me, and I swear to God, it's mostly Bane, and I know you're going to be watching this at some point, Bane, fuck off, and other people in the Empire who are like, well, you know, who's the hottest person in Star Wars? I don't know, I don't care, I don't think about that type of shit. You know, people say, oh, who's better, Natalie Portman or Carrie Fisher? I don't care. Okay, when they were needlessly all stripped down to the bare bones in whatever movies they were in, I don't care. It's unnecessary to me. It doesn't matter. Just carry on with the fucking battle scenes. You know, it's that type of thing. So don't ask me, you know, what I think about that. I don't think about it. I don't care. I care about the fucking story. It's the same thing like when I have to hear people little tirade about, you know, oh, you go to school and you're supposed to, you know, mingle with people, and then eventually you're supposed to find dates and go out and get laid and all this shit. No, I go to school to learn. If you're going there for any other reason than to learn, get out, because you're ruining the institution for everybody else. But I digress. Going back to the main point of this whole fucking ranting ass video. God, I'm rambling. I understand what George Lucas was trying to do with episodes 2 and 3. George Lucas just isn't as subtle as people would like him to be, and I understand why people would be pissed with that. Stilted dialogue, stilted dialogue, stilted everything, but, you know, I understand that in George Lucas's mind, Anakin and Padme loved each other. Therefore, story-wise, I don't see it as anything else but that, but it was twisted by an evil, evil man who is old and wears a robe. I think his name is Sheev. Oh my god, fuck that name. I think what I was trying to prove with that whole tirade is that what the possessiveness of Anakin isn't necessarily because he doesn't love Padme. It's because he loves her too much. And I think there is a fair argument to be made in even real life where you can love somebody too much. To the point of dependency, or at least the belief of dependency. where he thought that literally his whole life would fall apart if she died in childbirth, or if she just died in general. It's possessive in that you can't let go of that person even if it is their time to let go. Therefore, you're going to do any fucked up thing to make sure that they survive. And Anakin was also power hungry because again, the inferred argument is that his life as a slave and then transfer him into the station of a Jedi Padawan who is subservient to a master, just as he was subservient to a master as a slave, has always made him feel as if he has no he has no control over his destiny, no control over his choices, so he was always power hungry. But with Padme, he always felt as if he had some control over his life and the whole situation. But then when it comes to her dying, he doesn't have any control once more. He's subservient to a master, the master being the fate and possibility of her dying. Is that me thinking a little too deep? Perhaps. But again, it's loving someone so much that you could become to a dependent, possessive kind of mentality where it's like Palpatine, oh, hey, if you kill a bunch of children, I can save your wife and it'll fix all your problems. But at that point, it goes into the whole nature of the Force and how doing things on the dark side just pulls you deeper down the rabbit hole. But not going there. But this all rounds way back to the initial argument of why I think I prefer Jedi who don't get into relationships, and why I like the Old Order in this manner better than the new one, although the new one allows for it, but, this was even before the prequels came out, and then people who wrote all these books were like, what? They weren't allowed to have a relationship? Well, Luke didn't know that, so who cares? But I mean, I think they even tried to replicate the problem with, like, Jason Solo and Kiedis, where his visions of Crate, and for some reason Alana bowing to Crate, which would never happen. I don't even know what that fucking vision was supposed to be about, was still him being a little, not dependent, but possessive on his daughter, a little bit. But, Jason's reasons for falling to the dark side really rack my brain sometimes. I'm not even going to go there. But plenty of fucking relationships in the new Jedi Order also fail, also fall apart, and then you bring all the drama into it, and apparently this offends a lot of people, but holy good God, Lord Almighty Jesus, I do not give a shit about Jaina Solo and all of her fucking Twilight-esque garbage relationships, okay? I don't care. I get it. Star Wars just has to have these ultra fucking cliched fucking cliched I'm looking for a word and I can't find it. Cheesy ass romances, like even KOTOR with Baszla. Oh my god, please just stop, It just doesn't feel all that natural in the Star Wars universe. In some contexts, it feels natural. In most, it doesn't. I'll just say that. Even SWTOR, all the relationships feel like they're being severely forced on all the characters, on all their relationship types. So that, But when it comes to Jedi, I feel like, if you're going to devote yourself, and yeah, people are like, well, they're taken as children, they don't have a choice. Fair enough. But you do realize as a Jedi, you're allowed to, at any point, leave, right? That seems to be something a lot of people who have arguments against the Old Jedi Order, and just allow them to bang anything that comes along and they'll suddenly just not be power-hungry madmen, is that any Jedi, I think, past being a child, because being a child, you might not have a choice, but once you're not a child anymore, you're allowed to leave. How do you think Dooku left? That he ran out of the Jedi Temple and was like, Coruscant police, pick me up, I've been held against my goddamn prisoner all my life, even though the door is right there. No, he just left. He said, I don't want to be a Jedi anymore. Of course, he ended up being a Sith Lord, but he's like, I don't want to be a Jedi anymore. Fuck it, I'm done, I'm leaving. At that point, the Jedi have no say over his life, no way of controlling him. He could go off and get a hooker for all he wants. He could go do drugs. No one cares. Anakin didn't want to not be a Jedi. You know, there's a little like shakiness in that whole argument where it's like, well, Anakin, if you want to be with Padme, you're gonna have to choose between her or a Jedi. I get that's a valid argument, but you can leave. You can fucking leave if you can't handle it. If you can't handle the pressure of not having a fucking orgasm, okay? I know that word is icky to some people, but to people in real life who make arguments that the Jedi would all be okay if they're allowed to be in a sexual relationship with somebody, be it casual or non-casual, don't seem to comprehend the fact that they could fucking leave at any point they want. Okay? I mean, good God, even the Old Republic implies that the old Jedi Order, you know, around the time of the Old Republic, were accepting apprentices and trainees that were much older than the level or the age marker that the Old Order of the prequels even had, whereas like you had people in their 20s and 30s becoming apprentices. They know what they're getting into. If they can't handle it, they're allowed to leave. If you come to Tython as an adult inside the Old Republic and there's like, oh, by the way, you can't get into romantic or sexual relationships, okay, fine, you know what, this ain't for me, I'm going to go do and help the Republic in some other way. But it seems like to people who are so like centered on this idea of sexuality being the cure-all to Jedi is like, well, then that's not fair because the Jedi should teach these people how to use the Force and then send them off and whatever. The Jedi don't have to do shit. If there was an order that formed that allowed Jedi to be, or allowed people, because it's not Jedi Order at that point anymore, it allowed people to join up, be in a sexual relationship or emotional one, fine. Don't call yourself a Jedi, but fine. Make that damn order up. The Sith don't give a shit. The Sith are like, hey, you want to do whatever you want, then I don't give a shit. That is a stated thing with the Sith, and that's fine because the Sith don't limit themselves to anyone's constraints unless you're Vitiate and then you follow him, then you're an idiot. But the Sith, they just don't care. You know, there's the higher councils of whatever Sith Order you're following do not give a shit about what you do in your personal time. The Jedi happen to because they're afraid of situations like Anakin Skywalker, like Ulic Qel-Droma, like Jolie Bindo showing up, where it's like, well, you were in a relationship and then things went downhill and either you went evil, that person didn't want you to be a Jedi, and then they did something bad, and you end up hurting not just yourself, but the entire construct of the Order, because now you have a bunch of people questioning, was that a good thing to do, or was that not a good thing to do? Were you in the wrong? Am I in the wrong? Why aren't we allowed to do this? And I'm not saying you can't ask questions. I'm saying that these situations always seem to arise in books and games and comics that are always advocating for Jedi being allowed to be in these relationships, but at the same time showing a bad outcome when these situations are allowed to take place behind the back or not behind the back of the council itself. Like with Ulic and Nomi, it was kind of like okay. I mean, Nomi was even married to a Jedi. I think, like, again, the old Jedi Order was like okay with it up until a point, and then they went, okay, let's not do this anymore. But even then, the Jedi were kind of like, yeah, that's, you know, that's okay, I guess. Yeah, not really. The old Jedi Order before, like, the Revan time seemed to have a little more leeway, but then things started to change drastically over time, because I think situations like that were rising up all the time with a negative outcome. Relationships, as far as I can tell, from someone, again, from the outside looking in, never end that fucking well. And when they do, I don't know, besides outside of fiction, where a relationship ends well. I mean, divorce rates are through the fucking roof. People are now just so bent on just being in, like, little sexual relationships and then breaking off from one another. It's like, I don't even believe in the idea of love. I've already said that. I don't believe in the real world in love and affection between two human beings who are not born in the same family. I don't think that exists. I'm sorry, but if it's not a fictional universe, to me, you're lying to yourself because it doesn't fucking exist. That's just my personal opinion. It's how I've grown up. how I've seen things. My family doesn't even agree with me, so don't even try and argue with me. But I don't believe it exists. I believe that it's all chemically motivated in the brain to procreate. That's all it is in my mind. But if you're going to make a fictional universe where such an emotion exists, then it needs to actually show that it's good for the person and not bad for the rest of the whole fucking universe. In Anakin's case, him getting in a relationship ended up in a galaxy full of dead fucking people, okay? In the case of Jolie Bindo, it ended up with his wife dead after she reportedly killed plenty of fucking people. Ulick killed lots of people. Some would say that you would have done that even outside of a relationship. I'm not sure, maybe. And for me, the Jedi, the whole idea of meditation and just being at one with the universe, and these aren't my beliefs. I have my own personal beliefs I'm not going to state here because it probably just annoy people. But the idea of meditation, focusing yourself, not being so worried about your personal relationships with other people, but trying to make lives better for other people, but not necessarily so inward. See, to me, another thing that this proves for the Jedi is that they're a little more, they're introverted, but they're also outroverted. In that they're introverted in that it's a lot of self-reflection, meditation, self-understanding, self-awareness, and then awareness of the wider universe and your connection to it in that understanding of yourself. Whereas relationships, sexual or emotional, either way, romantic, are always about making you feel better as an individual because you have that other person there as a trophy. Now, I'm not talking fictional universe, but it is also implied within Star Wars, for instance, that relationships are, Yoda even says this at some point, that the reason why the Jedi don't believe relationships are good things because it becomes more about you rather than the other person, which in Anakin's case, yeah, it was a little more about him. It was about him being unable to function in his mind without Padme. It's all about you, making you feel better, making you feel loved, making you, because you have that other person with you. That person is, then, in contrast, supposed to feel better about themselves because they have you, themselves because they're in a relationship, themselves because they think they feel great because you're there. It's all about making you as an individual feel better while being in a relationship with someone else, and that's supposed to translate as both you just being happy. That's not both of you being happy because the other person is happy. That's you being happy because you feel good about having that person with you. That is a completely narcissistic, self-centered ideology of, my God, I feel happy because this other person is here. Therefore, she or he must feel happy too because, I'm here as well. Which, yeah, kinda, but then it's all about you. What are you doing to fulfill that other person? People who are all about romance and whatever, go ahead and make your arguments, but really, love is a fallacy because it's all about making you feel good about yourself. That's all it is. And then you happen to procreate with that other person. In the Jedi, it really makes sense to me. It makes sense why they think that way, because that if you observe the world, our one world, for about 20 minutes, you come to see that's all it is. Now, if you observe a wider galaxy of many species all coming to the same goddamn conclusion, unless they're Cathar or something where they get like mentally bonded or some stupid shit, then that's different because that's more of like a metaphysical type of connection. But as for us normal mortals, it's all about you, the individual, feeling good about yourself, and there's no real benefit to being in a relationship with someone other than to make you feel good for the time being. And then what happens when the relationship falls apart? You become a wreck because you feel sad. You don't consider the other person. You hate the other person because you're mad at them because they hurt you, because they took away your own self-centered little bubble that made you feel good about being in a relationship about yourself. That's all it is. And, I couldn't even imagine how off the rails Anakin would have gone if Padme had, like, broken up with him, divorced him or something. He probably would have killed himself after he blew up a planet. This kind of turned into a tirade against the whole sexual nature about Lord of the Rings. God, about the Jedi, but, I mean, it kind of speaks to the main argument I see for why the Jedi kind of get so much shit in real life and inside the universe to a degree, inside of the Star Wars universe to a degree. And I think that it's a load of bullshit. Excuse me. So, I'm ready. Okay. Relationships that worked inside of the Star Wars universe with sexual or otherwise relationships involved. God. And I can't stand Karen Travis either. And I mean, I've said this before, but oh, yeah. I do not like Mandalorians. I'm sorry to all you Mandalorian fans out there. There's a difference between Mandalorian fans and Mandalorian fanboys. I can't stand the fanboys, the fans. It's all up to you. You're allowed to like whatever. Even the fanboys, you're all allowed to like what you want. But get off your high horse with the fucking Mandalorians. And Karen Travis is the worst example of a Mandalorian fangirl, where it's like, Mandalorians are such great people because they have this stupid honor code and this stupid system that says, hey, you know what's honorable? Going to war and committing genocide against the Cathar and all sorts of other species and planets out in the Outer Rim. That's better than being a Jedi, right? Because they're unemotional pricks. No, that is someone who doesn't fundamentally understand what it means to be a Jedi, looking from the outside in and calling someone a bitch when really they're an asshole. The kettle calling the pot black or the pot calling the kettle black. It's the same fucking thing, okay? Don't come to me and try to sound like you're so much better, or that the people you're writing about are so much better, when they have committed genocide on multiple occasions, killing people who don't deserve it, because apparently killing people makes you honorable. It's the same thing, like I've said before, with people who were obsessed with the Japanese of World War II. They were honorable because they went into countries with a poor military force that could not rise up against them, slaughtered civilians, and that somehow made them honorable. No, an honorable warrior is someone going up against an army of people who can actually fight them, meet them on the field of battle on equal footing, and then they come out the victor. And yeah, they wanted the Jedi to do that for them, but in order to carry that out, they committed massacres and genocide against people who couldn't. So that doesn't make them honorable. That makes them pieces of shit. It makes them Nazis. It makes them whatever you want to call them. Garbage. Mandalorians, ethically, honorably, are garbage. I don't care what your argument is, but again, you're allowed to like what you want. But when it comes to Karen Travis and her stupid fucking Mandalorian books and that stupid idiot Jedi getting into a relationship with a fucking clone who I don't even consider a person. I'm sorry, clones are non-people to me. They get into these relationships and suddenly she's like so much better than everybody, and then what ends up happening is like, oh, she doesn't go evil, it's all great, it's all good, and she ends up dying anyways. Woohoo thing, stuff. And Mandalorians are so fucking jaded as people, they don't even like really show like real emotion when it comes to loss. They're just kind of like, oh, they died because of battle and honorably. I feel very sad for their loss, but Lord knows that they did it by being in a battle or something. I don't know. See, so don't even come to me with that relationship as evidence to the contrary on how relationships are good for Jedi. They're not. Okay? The only argument you have for it being a good thing is the new Jedi Order under Luke. Because it's at that point Luke and everyone around him don't even know that the Old Jedi Order didn't allow relationships, so it was like a non-issue for them going into it. That technically doesn't make them really Jedi anymore, but I'm like, yeah, no, they're Jedi because they follow the code. They didn't know that was like a institutionally mandated thing by the Old Order, so they're still Jedi, they just happen to have a different stance on it. And there's no Old Jedi Order to say otherwise, so yeah, they're Jedi. Luke and his relationship with Mara, that worked. I don't consider Leia a Jedi in Legends, because she's like, yeah, okay, Leia, let's give you some training, give you a lightsaber. Okay, yeah, you're kind of a Jedi, maybe. When you want to be, when you're not a politician. Jaina and her relationship with Jagged Fell. Yeah, that worked, I guess, after she had her moments with Jacob and Edward. I mean, Jesus, I'm gonna stop. Jason's relationship didn't really work. He was in several too. That was, I forgot that he jumped from women too, and that's also stupid. In case you people think I'm sexist or something. No, that was also really annoying. Him jumping from that person to that person to that person. Even the author later on implying that he had some sort of weird relationship with Tahiri, and the old author from the last set of books saying, no, that never happened. I never implied that. So, I mean, I don't even consider the Tahiri Jason thing to be an actual thing that ever happened. To me, that just never happened. But him coming from whoever, Danny Quay or Danny Quay, I forgot what her name is, and then going to Tenelka. I mean, yeah, it worked, whatever, until he became an asshole Sith Lord. But if you really think about it, the New Jedi Order does not have a lot of relationships that are like really memorable. They're just kind of like, oh yeah, they're in a relationship together. Okay, that works, whatever. Whatever makes them happy, I guess. Them as an individual, not them as a couple, because that isn't a real thing. God, I'm such a biased, jaded individual. But whatever, it works for me. So, the New Jedi Order isn't like that big of a problem for me in that sense. The Old Jedi Order I just like more because they seem to have an understanding that relationships, despite what people in the wider universe or the wider world, whatever you want to say, would try and tell them, is essentially bad for both of you. It's not good for either the person in a relationship. It's not good for either one. If you want to be a stronger, happier, better person, it's better to be alone, and I understand that about the Jedi's reasoning. I understand that. I'm sure other people who even aren't asexual in that manner understand that. But for the people who argue otherwise, I just don't get what they're saying. That if it really came down really to an orgasm, then go masturbate. I mean, really. I know that's really gross, but really, if that is your argument, I'm sure every Jedi has at one point or another, okay? Get off your high horse. Just because you're creepy, disgusting, hypersexual individual doesn't mean everyone in every fictional universe also has to have their lives be fulfilling. It's like, holy shit, well, your mind is going somewhere that really no one was going before. Okay? That's just where I stand on that matter. The idea of understanding yourself, being happy with yourself, and then trying to make other people happy out in the universe by helping them, by protecting them, by being the peacemaker, and trying to gain knowledge and wisdom, not to make yourself stronger, but to understand the universe better, to understand your place in the universe, to understand people's places in the universe, what you can do, what you can't do, what you can fix, what you can't fix, how can you help people, how can't you help people. Being a good person, not because you depend on someone else to make you happy, but being a good person because you can make other people happy and still not require anything in return, be it the acknowledgement of how much of a good person you are from your significant other or from the council, but rather just knowing deep down somewhere, if you help somebody, you did a good thing. Then you did a good thing. You don't need someone else to tell you did a good thing. Help people. Don't infringe on other people. Don't pick sides without at least digging into some information on both sides of the parties you're talking about. Be at one with the universe and try to make it a better place. Don't be self-centered and self-conceited and whatever. It's all about... And then, going to your death knowing that you're not really dead. You're just returning, there's probably going to be an atheist or two who hears this and gets pissed off, but this does not apply to religious. It applies in the sense that when you die, even if you're an atheist or if you're not, you return to that which you came from, which is matter. You're just matter. You return to the earth. You return to dirt. You return to the soil. You become part of the universe once more. And that essentially is what the Force is. The Jedi say there is no death. There's only the Force. That's a fundamentally true statement. There is no death if you believe that when you die, your body returns to the earth and becomes compost. Then there is no death. It's just a continuation of the matter that made your body now being transformed into different matter that makes grass or, shit grow or whatever. You die, your body's buried, a tree grows where you once were, someone cuts down the tree and turns into a book. I mean, was that matter you? I don't know. All matter comes from stars. We all know this. Science has proven all matter comes from stars blowing up. All matter from the stars came from the Big Bang. We all are part of the same goddamn universe, the same matter. And if you are religious, you believe that our souls go to a different place, but that we are still part of the wider universe. Why is that a bad thing? It's not. The Jedi say it's not. I'm just saying from a Jedi point of view, it's not. It's a completely fine thing. Either way you look at it, you return to where you came from, which is the universe. Which, according to Star Wars lore, the Force is the fucking universe. So, being a good person, not because you want vindication as a good person, being a good person not because you want to prove yourself to another person, being a good person not because it's based on the fact that you get to have an orgasm every other day with another person, being a good person because you're smart and wise and not power hungry, and devote yourself to helping people and not wanting them to say thank you, and sometimes they won't say thank you. Sometimes they don't appreciate the thing you've done for them, but still knowing that you did a good thing despite what they say and in spite of what they say. And then knowing that when you die, you're not dead. You're simply carrying on in some journey, be it, an afterlife or just returning to the Force as it is bounding for the entire universe, becoming stronger than you ever were before. That's not a bad thing. That's a good thing. So, anyone who comes to me with the same old tired argument that the Old Jedi Order wouldn't have fallen apart because of relationships, you have to take into account so many factors about Anakin's personality and how Palpatine played him like a damn fiddle, and how you took a slave who had to constantly call people master. I believe there was a story that he had to actually watch his mother get beaten by some of Gardulla's men sometime, or that might have been false. Either way, you have to imagine that he saw some shit as a slave, considering he was so matter of fact in saying that a slave caller, if you run away, it's going to blow you up and you get blown into bits. I believe there was one book that he actually said that he saw a slave run and then he blew up right in front of him. Considering he saw all that and he was a slave, he had to constantly call someone master, he never had control over his own destiny, and then he went from that to being a Jedi, where again, you went from being a slave to a different kind of slavery, which there's more of an argument against the Old Jedi Order in how they treat their apprentices than how they treat relationships and romance. And in Anakin's case, there needed to be a lot more gentle love and care. And at that point, the Jedi were becoming a little too politically minded. So that it wasn't a great time. Like if they still had like a place on Tython, like the Old Republic, if we were going to bring the Old Republic into this, if they had still like a retreat on Tython where they sent people who needed more time to kind of center themselves and begin to understand their place in the universe and understand that being a Jedi is not all about, trying to prove something to yourself or to other people. It's about trying to help people and be there for people. Then that would have been better for him. But he was given to an inexperienced master who had just become a master, who did his best. He failed. Obi-Wan even admits that, and we all understand how he failed. We all love Obi-Wan, but he wasn't the best choice for a master. Going from a slave to an apprentice where you just have to constantly call someone master, master, master. He wasn't even his master, and he still has to call people masters all the time. And then he was finally given the post of Jedi Master by Palpatine, and they're like, you're not a master. You're still subservient to us. Can you imagine what it'd be like to say, hey, you get to sit in on the council meetings but by the way, you have no say in it, you have no authority, you are still just a fucking peon compared to all of us. I mean, it affects your brain. And then you have control of your destiny in one area when it comes to your relationship with this woman, and she's going to die according to your Force visions, which have been proven true in the past. That there's just so much more you have to take into account than just him being open with his relationship with Padme and all the Jedi being like, oh, it's okay. There's a lot more going on there. So, those are my quite open feelings on the whole Old Jedi Order argument for them, where it's just, get in a relationship and bang everything you see and suddenly everything will be okay. That's my argument against it. What do you think? Do you like the Old Jedi Order or the New Jedi Order more? I, of course, as I said, like the Old Jedi Order or just the Jedi Order more. Do you like them more? Do you like Luke's order more? Do you like some other order? Do you like the Jensare, or do you like the Jal Shay, or the I always forget the ones' names. I'm gonna get shit because there's another order. I always forget their names. And no, I don't consider Great Jedi to be an actual thing, but if you say Great Jedi, then, I mean, that's who you like, but I don't consider the Great Jedi personally to actually be an order. They're just kind of like people who were Jedi, not pretending to be Jedi, even though they're not Jedi. Do you like the Sith more? I mean, come on, everyone loves the Sith. So yeah. Do you like the Witches of Dathomir? You have to be a woman to like the Witches of Dathomir, because you're gonna have a shitty life as a dude. Which, I mean, hell, sexism happens everywhere else. Might as well be translated to the women this time being the complete sexist. But either way, tell me who you like. Do you agree? Do you not agree? Do you find the arguments bullshit? Do you think that there's more to the argument than I give it credit for? Tell me what you think. Yeah, you will hear me talk again soon, I swear. Goodbye.